What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie, and it was a crazy weekend. I mean, there was so much that went on between Lion Fight, that was right here in Connecticut at Foxwoods, but the main focus point this week, obviously UFC 238, which before the fight even went down was perfect, had all the ingredients to be the best card of the entire year. You know, a UFC pay-per-view card this day and age, it's so hard to get everyone's attention, get these pay-per-view buys in, because we don't really have superstars right now. In 2019, we're proving that there's been so many great fights, so many great cards, so many guys that are building their name, and there's a lot that went down this week to digest from UFC 238 between Henry Cejudo and Marlon, Cowboy Cerrone versus Tony Ferguson, Valentina Shevchenko, Jessica Evil Eye, which, mamma mia, that was crazy. So we got special guests joining us here today, the cast, the crew of Pure Evil MMA. We got Mike Lynch and also Simon, who runs UFC_news_official on Instagram with almost 30,000 followers, so make sure you follow him. Also follow the Barbecue Pit on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, follow Pure Evil MMA on Instagram at Pure Evil MMA _. That's PUREEVIL MMA _ for all the third graders out there that don't know how to spell. Also on Twitter at Evil_Echo. That's EVIL _ECCO. Facebook at Pure Evil MMAS. All right, let's jump right into it. But first, subscribe down below, give us a thumbs up. Sorry, I had to do that. All right, guys, this was a crazy card. It was matched up perfectly in my eyes. Even outside of the main card, we had a whole bunch of fights. Tatiana Suarez going in there. She's trying to get her shot of the title sooner or later, and she is on one hell of a roll, beating Nina Ansaroff, man. And Nina Ansaroff was on such a roll lately, and I didn't really know who Nina was before, finding out that she was Amanda Nunes' girlfriend, which is really what she's known for. But her last couple of fights have been amazing. We're going to talk about all the fights on this card that really stood out, relive the best moments. Let's start, guys. Let's start with the main event. Henry Cejudo. Going into that fight, everyone loves to kind of rag on Henry Cejudo, and he's the king of cringe in everyone's eyes. However, he's on one hell of a roll himself with his last loss being to Joseph Benavidez, which I would like to see next. But before that, what did you guys think was going to happen in this fight? Who are you guys going for? Simon, let's start with you, buddy.
Hi, man. By the way, thanks for rounding up my Instagram followers, by the way, to 25k, but you said nearly 30k, so I appreciate that. Personally, going into this fight, I was a little bit, I don't know, I was initially skeptical just because if anyone out there doesn't know, I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to the whole double champ thing. It's kind of like, it went from a one-trick pony to now everyone needs to have fucking two belts. I was a little bit skeptical, but when I thought about it a little bit more, I was like, okay, so he kind of deserves it. He staunches the fucking champ in round one, even though he hasn't really defended his belt at 125. All right, we can give this guy a little bit slack. Deserved it more than Conor did. The double champ title, so yeah, we've got to give it that at least. Against Marlon Moraes, though, he's no fucking joke going into this fight. I mean, the guy's 22-6, and he's an absolute monster in the cage. A lot of people did count him out, even myself counted him out going into this fight. I didn't think that Marlon Moraes would pick up a win, but if you look at the stats into the fight in the earlier rounds, he shows that he should have been in there with Henry Cejudo. A lot of people did count him out, but if you look at the stats and you watch the first couple of rounds, he definitely proved that he should be in there against Henry Cejudo and fighting for the title of bantamweight. But of course, Henry Cejudo, despite him being the king of cringe, despite him being not the most marketable guy, not the most notable guy in the world, he goes out there and he fucking finishes him by a TKO, which a lot of people weren't predicting. I was predicting a submission win, him being a wrestler and all. And he got an absolute fucking win. 11 seconds before the end of the third round, he starched him and now becomes a double champ. Now, I think it was a great fight. However, my issue comes in the post-fight interview with Henry Cejudo now, because I just reported it on my Instagram about 2 minutes before we went live that he now thinks he's the face of the UFC. As well as that, he calls out people like Uriah Faber, Cody Garbrandt, Dominic Cruz, and then he wants to move to fucking featherweight. I mean, come on, guys. Let's be fucking real here.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Here's the thing, even for Valentina Shevchenko, she is such a great fighter. However, she is not that marketable. The UFC is not getting behind her. Henry Cejudo, he tries to do as much as he can, and I like that he's running with the whole cringe thing because I get a kick out of it. I'd rather have somebody be doing that and getting bad attention over somebody like Colby Covington. I mean, it works, but it's kind of sad. He's just being silly, and he's a great fighter, and people just love ragging on him. I do understand what you're saying here. I don't think that he'd be able to take out some of those names. I want to see it run back with Joseph Benavidez. That's the last guy that he lost to, and that's what's got to go down next. But for being the face of the UFC, it's even more cringe. Like, I'm not surprised he said that. It was probably him trying to be more cringy. You know what I mean? It just fit.
I know, but at the same time, he's cutting himself from the same cloth as Colby Covington. And at the end, I had a conversation with a guy on a previous podcast a while ago, and we were talking about the definitions of what entertainment is, and when that line is crossed, in which it starts to diminish the integrity of the idea of being a fighter, a martial artist, and the sport itself. And the UFC is trying to move away from the idea of, being an almost joke company. With UFC 1, they were talking about putting fucking crocodiles around the ring, around the cage, and making, making bullshit matchups with people, heavyweights, flyweights, this kind of thing. And they've gone for a more professional approach. The Reebok deal, fighters don't no longer look like NASCAR drivers. They've got professional gear on. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's a debate for another day. But they're going for a more professional approach with the press conferences, the stare downs, etc., etc. But when you got the fucking champ coming out in a magician costume, talking all this shit, you know what I mean? Is that diminishing from what he's doing in the octagon? Because in the octagon, he's got an Olympic gold medalist. He's now a 2-time division champ. But all people can talk about is that he's now the king of cringe. Not that he's an Olympic champion and a 2-division champ. He shouldn't need to do all that shit, because his awards, his achievements, and his in-cage style and achievements speak for themselves. He shouldn't have to do any of the talking. He should just be, I'm a straight fucking killer. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to choke your head off. I'm going to wear you down. I beat Demetrius Johnson, arguably one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time, and I beat TJ Dillashaw. Now, if that does not speak for itself, what more can you do? So, in my mind, yes, Henry Cejudo is getting all this short-term attention, but long-term, is he going to diminish the mystique of who he is as a fighter? Because when he eventually loses, and I'm not saying that he will lose, but the likelihood when people get older and they go up against more difficult matchups that they do lose, it's just going to make him look like more of a joke, and people are just going to lose on him, and people are just going to rag on him more for that. So it's a case of, is it diminishing himself and his brand long term by doing all this king of cringe shit, or is it going to help him in the short term, get the finances, get the money fights, and then all these others, is the belt and the Olympic gold medal falling back on that, because no one's going to talk about that when you're doing all this shit to get their attention. So that's where I kind of stand on it. I'm in a little bit of two minds. I can understand why he's doing it, but on the other hand, I'm like, dude, you're an Olympic gold medalist, you're a 2-division champ. You should do all the talk. That should just do all the talking that you need to do.
I 100% agree, Mike. What do you think about this? And what were you thinking before the fight went down?
Before the fight, I picked Marlon Moraes because I felt like he was going to come in, he was going to establish dominant leg kicks to try to keep away from the takedown. And then I thought he was going to, just like Valentina Shevchenko, set up a head kick later in the second round, is actually what I predicted.
Yeah.
He did a very good job of that in the first round, and then second round comes out, and we see in a completely different Henry Cejudo. And he took over and showed that he is the bantamweight world champion. He completely changed his fighting style and got TKO.
Now, what do you agree with what Simon's saying there? Because I like that. I remember when Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson was facing Henry Cejudo in the first fight, and the whole build-up to who Henry Cejudo was marketing, his background, his ethnicity, him being Olympic medal winner. So I thought that was enough, and I liked him. I liked that he wasn't going into the cringe thing. Even on that season Ultimate Fighter that he coached, he wasn't doing stuff like this. He was being himself. He was being kind of, an idol. If you're a young kid with that same background or shorter guy, I mean, these guys are tiny, man. Fighting at 125 pounds, 135 pounds, those aren't big guys. And there's a lot of kids out there, you see, going to high school, they call it tiny man syndrome, where a lot of these guys are a lot of yappers. And I'm not taking the whole group of people that are under 5'5" or whatever for the male role. But I just liked where he was, how confident he was, what he was able to accomplish. I thought that was enough to promote him. And now him doing the whole king thing, yeah, we're talking about it. I kind of think it's silly. It fits the new role that he's playing, but I'd much rather have him be himself. But then the question comes up, well, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, he was that kind of a person and nobody cared. So, you know, what do you think about this?
DJ did it in a more professional manner. You know, he first and foremost he was a martial artist, and at the second of that, he was a joker and a bit of more of a personality. And you saw that in his Twitch streaming and all this other stuff that he was doing outside of the cage. But all of it was all done in good taste. Now, pulling out a fucking snake out of a hat and pulling a rabbit out of a hat and wearing a fucking magician's coat to the stare down, which is supposed to be a serious thing where you're staring off against an opponent that you're about to step into a cage with and essentially go to war. You know what I mean? You compare that to when, Khabib or Tony Ferguson go into a stare-off. Yeah, they're a bit cringy themselves, but you know they're the fucking business. You know what I mean? That's just their own little personality and spin on it. He goes like it's fucking dress-up day at school. You know, he takes it to a whole nother level, and it just borderlines on markability and straight up just sad. You know what I mean? It's like you're trying too hard. It was like, do you remember when Kevin Lee was in the press conference against Michael Chiesa? And he turns up dressed like Conor and starts talking all shit about his mom. Now, Kevin Lee's not like that anymore. If you listen to his most recent podcast episode with Joe Rogan, he's a completely different guy. A more stoic, more relaxed, more playful, but like fun. He's not that kind of cringy, kind of just trying to
too hard. Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying too hard. That's what Henry Cejudo's been right now. And you're going to be with Marlon Moraes, who was fair game. He was trying to talk a bit of trash, but you could tell that was forced as well. And in this kind of post-Conor era of UFC where people are kind of getting sick of that, is that really the way to go about it? Or do we need champs who, their trash talk means something and the way that they act means something as a role model to all the younger kids who are watching now? They're not supposed to because it's an 18 or plus, but, whatever. And then Henry Cejudo comes out and goes, yeah, I want to start to all these guys that are coming off of losses or old, and then I want to go up to featherweight and be a 3 division champion. Well, now you're like, okay, you're either talking a lot of shit or you're just true. You're essentially going to betray the exact things that made you who you are in the first place by saying fuck you to all the divisions, saying fuck you to everyone else in the rankings, and that is just going to be the end of the flyweight and the bantamweight division if he starts just trying to fucking belt collect. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you. Let me say this though. I mean, the big talk with Henry Cejudo staying around is that he was supposed to save that weight division. Mike, let me ask you, do you think he is doing a good job? Do you think they're going to bring that weight division back? Or they're just going to let Henry Cejudo ride when he loses? They're going to get rid of it. What do you think about that whole situation? Is Henry, standing his ground for that weight division like he promised? Or is it just like one big joke to everybody?
I think it depends. I think, it is looked at as a joke to most people. But you go back to that, how Henry's changing into the talker and how, the stoic and the not really trash talking doesn't really work for champions or yada yada, and it normally doesn't. And it kind of, I'm not saying Robert Whittaker is the biggest star in the UFC, but you got Robert Whittaker who doesn't really talk a lot of trash to anybody. He says his witty things here and there when somebody says something to him, but he doesn't really talk a lot of trash. And he's like one of the biggest stars in his country just because of he's got the middleweight championship. So it could work. It just, I guess, just depends on what kind of approach you're taking to it.
I mean, Mexico needs a big star. They really do. Yeah. I liked what they were doing originally. So, moving forward, guys, let's switch up gears here right now for all of our listeners and viewers. Tony Ferguson versus Cowboy Cerrone. Let's skip over Valentina really quick. This is what everybody wanted. This is what people wanted for the main event for UFC 238. Unfortunately, we understand why they didn't, because it's not a title fight. I did not want this to be an interim fight. Obviously, they couldn't do that. But this was a fight I wanted 5 rounds. However, I predicted that this might have gone maybe 3-4 rounds. It didn't need to be 5 rounds. And we even saw it ended in the second via TKO from Tony Ferguson. So what did you guys think going into this fight? Who are you picking? Mike, I'm gonna start with you. Simon, you next.
Yeah.
I picked Ferguson going into it, and it was a little quicker than I thought, but I had 3rd round TKO. I felt like he started a lot slower than he normally does, but he eventually started to pick it up, started landing that jab, and he gets a lot of shit, and he gets booed out of the arena because people think that the late shot broke Cerrone's nose, but Cerrone's nose broke probably like half of that second round.
I'm glad that you brought that up too.
Yeah. I mean, the punch definitely couldn't have helped his nose at all because it landed square and Cerrone barely had his hands up. But that's not the punch that broke his nose. So there's no. Yeah, it happens sometimes. You just get caught in the heat of things, and he stopped a second too late. You know.
Simon, do they do a rematch for this? What did you think about that late shot and the way it ended? And first, before you answer that, who did you have going in this fight? Quick.
I had Ferguson round 2, but I predicted by submission,
Okay.
not TKO. So I was kind of there, but if anyone who watched the fucking the companion that we did, I was doing terrible throughout the entire prelims. I only got one fight right, and then I only got one fight wrong on the main card. So clearly, I'm such a casual fan. Anyways, going into this fight, I was so looking forward to this fight. Like these two guys are two of my favorite fighters, and they've all got something to prove. You know, they're kind of in that cusp of being right in that title contention. Like, they're both there anyway, but just to push it over the limit, where it's like without a shadow of a doubt, these guys need to fight for a title. And I was looking forward to it because they're both, like, one of the things that I like is true martial artists. You know, they can talk a bit of smack and they can have a bit of fun, but when it gets into the cage, they're all business, and that's what you got with Donald Cerrone versus Tony Ferguson. I personally, with the whole one shot at the end of the fight, you know, that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I did a podcast before this one, and I had a bit of a back and forth with one of the people on there, and then we spoke about how it was almost like he was arguing that because he landed that strike, they need to run it back, which is essentially taking away a title shot from Tony Ferguson, which I completely disagree with. I mean, Tony Ferguson was essentially starching Donald Cerrone throughout that entire fight. If you look at the stats, right, every single strike that Tony Ferguson landed on Donald Cerrone was a significant strike. 104 out of 200 was significant, right? And same with Donald Cerrone, though. Every single strike that he landed was a significant strike. It was fucking insane, right? But, okay, he landed the strike after the bell. All right, we get it. It's in the heat of the moment. Shit happens. But he goes back to the corner and he blows his nose, which, anyone out there, if you've got a broken nose, you don't do that. That is rule 101. Donald Cerrone, he's 36-12 in the in MMA. He should know that by now. You know what I mean? We're all sitting here on a fucking podcast, and we know that. You know what I mean? I get it, it's in the heat of the moment, but shit happens. But I don't think they need to run this back, because if they run this back, it's just going to hold the division even more. Khabib versus Poirier is going to happen, and then whoever wins that fight, we're going to need another contender after that. And if we do this, who's left to contend? No one really who deserves it. And I think Tony Ferguson, let me just list off a couple names for you, right? Pettis, Dos Anjos, Kevin Lee, Donald Cerrone. Those are the last 4 people that Tony Ferguson has beaten in a row. Former champions and huge names in the UFC. Why does this man not deserve the title shot? Why should he have to fight Donald Cerrone again and prove us even more right and have another fight against him just because of a small mistake that happened after the bell? That should not diminish and take away from his further achievements in his career and in his last couple of fights. And he should just get the fight that we all want, and that's either Khabib versus Tony or Poirier versus Tony. And if not that, maybe a consolation money fight against Conor if the UFC doesn't want to do Tony Khabib. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Conor. I don't really give a fuck. But maybe a Gaethje fight. We'll see if he even wants to fight again. But whoever wins out of Poirier and Khabib needs to get Tony Ferguson, because Tony Ferguson deserves it more than anyone I can think of right now to fight for a title in the UFC. And it's just one of those things where, and Donald Cerrone is kind of in the same situation as Robbie Lawler is against Ben Askren. Shit happens. And just live to fight another day and just keep moving forward. So
let me throw this out there for anyone that is new to the MMA scene. Maybe you just started watching this year in 2019. Tony Ferguson versus Khabib. Obviously, we all want to see it, but they've matched this fight up 4 times, and everyone says it's the fight that has been cursed. So I do want to see it. It has to happen. There's no way if they match it up again. If they seriously match it up again and something happens, please don't ever book this fight, because it's one of those things that Khabib gets injured or something happens to Khabib or Tony trips, or it's just always something. So it's the fight that may never happen. I'd say give it one more shot. Give it one more shot. Book that fight. I agree with you. I do want to see him run it back, but at the same time, I also want to see him move forward. There's other fights I would like to see Cowboy in. I mean, you bring up Justin Gaethje. I mean, I'm so excited to see what's up with him next. Even RDA. Donald Cowboy Cerrone lost RDA. Wonder if he wants to get that fight back. These two guys, man, neither of that. Cowboy Cerrone did not lose.
170? Do you mean Cowboy to go up to 170 or RDA come back down?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You're right. RDA left 155. Forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me on that one. But you know, at the end of the day, I do want to see a matchup Khabib again. It does matter who wins, whether it's Khabib or Dustin the Diamond. I mean, this is the best division in the entire UFC. 155 pounds is the best. So I don't know. I was just looking forward to that fight, and it definitely delivered. It's just sour when you know, because Tony can't feel good about this. Come on. He cannot feel good about winning the fight when people are going to bust his balls about being like, oh, the late shot. So I can only imagine how that must feel for him when he did get the win.
In the post-fight interview in the cage, Rogan went over to Tony and was like, dude, just talk to Cerrone, man, because he just didn't want to get the limelight. They went over, he hugged him and consoled him, and he was so apologetic in the post-fight interview afterwards in the press conference. He was so apologetic, and you could tell he felt shit. But at the end of the day, that one strike should not diminish the fact that he was starting the last two rounds. Like, even though it was quite even the first couple of minutes, Tony was clearly the one on top. And if you even look at the damage, the physical damage between the two, Tony had a couple of scars on his chin, and then Donald Cerrone was, Tony Ferguson had a couple of marks on his chin, but Donald Cerrone was absolutely fucking battered and bruised. He was battered limb from limb. So at the end of the day, again, that shouldn't diminish from the fact of all the damage that he did beforehand. And that one punch is not the straw that broke the camel's back. It was just kind of a technicality almost that was in the heat of the moment. So, I mean, God damn it, they need to book that Khabib Tony fight. It was the biggest cock tease in all of MMA history, apart from Anderson Silva versus GSP, maybe.
I agree. It definitely was. We get cock blocked every time. All right, let's move forward here. Let's switch up gears. Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Evil Eye. I don't even have to ask you guys who you had going into this. Valentina Shevchenko, I believe, was everybody's pick going into this. I believe the odds were highly in Valentina's favor. If she wasn't the number one leader as, you know, the overhand when it came to Vegas odds, I don't know who else was on this card. But Valentina Shevchenko doing the damn thing once again. Jessica Evil Eye coming out of Ohio, man, and you want to root for everyone that comes out of Ohio, whether it's, you know, MGK, whether it's Stipe. I mean, they just love their people over there. But Jessica Evil Eye, I did not see having a chance winning this fight. I might get backlash for it, but I'm sure 90% of the people listening or, you know, followed the fight would agree with me here. So, Valentina Shevchenko gets the finish via TKO, round 2, 26 seconds. Mike, what did you think about this fight, man, and Valentina Shevchenko?
Yeah, I was impressed by the knockout. I seen her doing the whole leg kick, body kick, and she hurt her with one of the body kicks, which is why Jessica tried to block the body when she got kicked in the head. So you can see it happening. It's kind of exciting, and I had Valentina by decision, so I didn't expect. I know Jessica is pretty tough, so I didn't expect her to be able to finish her. But that kick, man, that put anybody to sleep, I think.
It was definitely an iconic kick. Definitely, would you guys agree? Top 2 finishes of her entire career so far, easily.
Oh, yeah.
Jessica Evil Eye looked like she was dead. I don't like making fun of fighters afterwards. That was a moment. It was like an Alistair Overeem getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou. I was concerned for Jessica Evil Eye. What did you guys think there, Simon? What were your thoughts in that fight?
I was insane. I would draw parallels to Rousey versus Holm in the kind of, in the manner and just the shot that she took, man. It's like fucking getting shot in the head or hit over the head with a baseball bat. That was, man. She went so limp and she was on the ground for so long. I mean, it was so noticeable that even in the post-fight press conference, someone asked Shevchenko, were you concerned for Jessica Eye when she didn't get up for about 2-3 minutes after being kicked in the head? And it was in such an insane kick, and it was a decent fight going in there. I think it just kind of suffered from that spot. It's after Tony Ferguson and Donald Cerrone fight. I don't think the crowd was into it as much. And I don't know about you guys, but do you think the crowd makes the fight as well a lot of the time? Like if you can hear the crowd audibly screaming and shouting and cheering, do you think that makes the fight a little bit better?
100%, and that's why I've asked a lot of fighters if this is a good enough reason, or one of the many reasons why there shouldn't be judges ringside, because it can alter how you actually feel about who's winning the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think it's kind of suffered from that being in that spot between the main event and Ferguson Cerrone. But at the end of the day, it was still an insane kick, and everyone popped huge for Shevchenko winning, and it was a great display by Shevchenko as well. Now, the only thing going forward is now, who does she fight next in the flyweight division? I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people were talking about a couple of other contenders in the division. I know, Eddie, you mentioned someone, didn't you?
Tatiana Suarez. How about Tatiana Suarez?
Yeah, she's a. Are they in the same division?
Nah, Tatiana Suarez 115.
Oh, okay. You're right. Someone bring up that weight division, top 15, because I got you guys on the phone, so I can't go through it right now. Somebody pull up the top 15.
I'll bring it real quick. Personally, just from a quick kind of idea, I would personally like to see, because I think to really solidify Shevchenko as a champ in that division, I would like a huge name to fight her, right? And to really solidify her as the champ. Now, that can go one of two ways. Now, some people, this might be very unpopular, but let's see how this goes. One, either Jessica Andrade defends the title again at 115 at strawweight, and then wants to move up. I don't know whether you want to do that whole double champ thing again with the women's belt. I don't know. We'll see. Or Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who, by the way, if you've not checked out her Instagram, she's for research purposes, I would recommend go checking a look. She's put on a bit of meat recently, and she's had some surgery done. But if she comes back and fights, maybe beat some. You like that one? If she comes back and she beats someone in the flyweight division, maybe that can solidify her again for Shevchenko versus Joanna too. And Joanna's a big name in the UFC and in casual MMA fans. So that again will just solidify her even more if she was able to pick up 2 wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So I think maybe either Joanna comes back and wins a fight against one of the top 3 contenders in that division, or Andrade wins a couple more fights down at strawweight and then moves up, as I think that then would solidify Shevchenko as one of the best women's fighters in the UFC of all time, etc., and really make her belt more notable. Because I don't know about you guys, but how many of you guys going into this fight knew of or was aware of who Jessica Eye was and everything about her?
I do. I've been following Jessica since before she was in the UFC. She definitely has a big name. I mean, before her last couple of fights, she was on a losing streak, and I feel like a lot of people lost interest in what was going on. But back in the day when women came into the UFC, Jessica Evil Eye was one of the top girls that people were rooting for, and really stood out to a lot of people, which is why she got this title shot. She's been in the UFC for so long. She went through some hard times. She lost her father. Then she gets a couple wins together. Even when she called it out before this fight, I didn't think they were going to give it to her. But the fact that she deserves it at this point with what she went through, the little win streak that she went on, she did deserve it in a way. I just did not see her getting the win here. And for people out there, I mean, who else can Valentina really fight right now in that division? You bring up Jessica Andrade, man. I just don't like hearing her name because I'm still mourning the death of Rose Namajunas a couple weeks ago, getting slammed on her neck. I mean, Jessica Andrade is a beast. I would love to see a fight with Valentina if she wants to do that, change weight divisions, because, Jessica Andrade, she moved down a weight class. That's why she's found so much success. Moving down in the weight class was the best move of her entire career, clearly, now that she holds the UFC title. So would she be willing to change weights to do I don't want to say it's a super fight, but fight Valentina? That would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Or even if maybe, I think Rose is a bit too small to go to flyweight because she doesn't cut a lot of weight anyway. So I don't know whether or not she'd want to go up a weight class. But I'd like to see maybe if Roses go up as well, or just someone to kind of solidify and console Shevchenko's reign as champion. Just a big name that she can kind of exclaim that I've beaten this person. I know she beat Joanna for the title, but at the same time, no, she didn't beat her for the title.
She beat Nico Montano, but then she did fight Joanna though, and she did win.
She defended it,
yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I'd like to see Joanna maybe come back, fight a couple of people, then go for the title again to kind of build that up again as Shevchenko versus Jędrzejczyk too.
That would be
maybe
smart. Yeah.
Andrade come in and maybe after a couple of more fights down at strawweight, maybe pick up a couple of wins there, then maybe move up. I don't know. But yeah, like you guys said, you can't really think of anyone right now to really go for that belt down at flyweight.
Yeah. And I think it would be tough to sell the Joanna fight too, because I believe Valentina's beaten her a few times in Muay Thai.
Before she was in the UFC, Joanna versus Valentina, they fought when they were a lot younger, and Valentina beat her twice. So this was the third time, but the first time in mixed martial arts. But that was, it's just sad to see where Joanna is right now when she was the most feared girl in the UFC alongside Ronda Rousey for so long.
Yeah.
How the mighty have fallen. I mean, I can't see Rousey coming back anytime soon anyway, so that shit ain't happening. And I don't know what's going on with Joanna anyway. She just seems to be on fucking holiday all the time.
All right, let's switch up gears here really quick. Tai Tuivasa coming off a loss to JDS just a couple of months ago, man. And you know what? Me and Ty got a little beef. I'm sure a lot of people that follow Pure Evil MMA heard what happened and whatnot. And I don't want to say I was rooting against him, but, listen, you could be in the top of the world, like Simon was just saying, how the mighty have fallen. We've seen this happen to so many people that come into the UFC. They build up a name for themselves. Look at Thomas Almeida being one of them. Francis Ngannou being another one. I mean, Ty didn't make it as far as Francis did, but it comes to a point where if you lose a fight, there's a lot of pressure on you now. If you were one of the top prospects on a run to get to the title and you get a loss, you get a second loss, you're losing all your steam. You need to get 2 wins in a row. You gotta, finish your fight, especially at heavyweight, man. It's not easy to do. He was undefeated coming into the UFC. Now he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Blagoy Ivanov, I've watched him fight back in 2015 at World Series of Fighting cage side against Josh Copeland, man, and he has an amazing story. He's got scars on him from being stabbed in the heart, and he's been able to come back. He was World Series of Fighting champion, came into the UFC recently, and I believe he lost his debut against Big Ben Rothwell. If somebody can go check that before the listeners throw shade on Twitter. But came into the UFC. I know that he lost his debut. This was a huge win for Ivanov here. Tai Tuivasa now deeper in the hole. And we see, guys, you got a 3-fight losing streak. You get the pink slip. However, if Tai does lose his next fight, I don't see the UFC getting rid of him because he is a personality. And he's so athletic for his size. But I won't say, it's fucked up to say, but I had a smirk on my face when he lost. And let me just quickly say this. Where he was at and how cocky he is. He goes on his Instagram lives. He talks shit to some of his biggest supporters out there. I was on his Instagram live. I asked him a professional question, and he started making fun of the lip ring. He starts saying this and that, and then cuts me off. That is so rude to do to not just a media member, but if you're doing that to people who are fans of you as well, think of a 16-year-old kid. I've seen him do this to so many people, and it's just such a bad look. So in a way, I don't want to say happy you got a humble pie, but I wonder how that humble pie tastes, is what I should say.
In other words, calm as a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Check yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, the guy, he lost to Gino Dos Santos, and he just lost to Ivanov. I mean, JDS is not a person to feel sad for if you lose against him, because that guy's a fucking world champion caliber fighter. And he was a world champ for a while, wasn't he? He was heavyweight champ.
Oh yes, being Cain Velasquez.
So that's not a bad thing to be if you lose against him. And at the end of the day, I was just super impressed with Ivanov in this fight. Like, he's got. If you look at his record, for anyone out there who doesn't know, I'd highly recommend looking up his record. He's 18-2 in mixed martial arts.
He's beat James McSweeney, someone that does a show for us right here on Pure Evil MMA with me, for Gloves Off. That was his last fight before getting signed to the UFC. And I believe, I don't know, allegedly, Dana White met up with James and asked James, like, do you think Tai Tuivasa is ready for the UFC? And clearly, he must have got the nod, if that is what happened. I'm not sure if that's what happened, but allegedly.
Allegedly. Fair enough. But yeah, sucks to be him. I mean, he's a marketable guy, especially in that New Zealand market and Australian, New Zealand kind of market. That would be a really that would have been a big thing for him, especially you got guys like Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, from those neck of the woods as well.
Tyson Pedro.
Tyson
There you go.
Bagel, yep.
I know because you lost Mark Hunt in the heavyweight division as well for that market. So this guy would have been really big for them, but unfortunately, if you don't win your fights, they can't really market you that well. The same thing's happened with Darren Till. You know, if you don't win your fight, you can't sell out Wembley, can't sell out fucking Anfield in Liverpool. You can't be putting these guys in the main card, even though they're marketable. But at the end of the day, even if you talk shit, you're not there to talk shit. You're there to win fucking fights. And if you can't do that, well then, sorry, but some other guy's going to come along and take your spot. It's fucking survival of the fittest out here, boys. And if you ain't winning fights, you ain't getting marketed, you ain't getting that money. So...
Yeah.
Moving forward, guys, what are some other fights that stood out to you at UFC 238? Mike, what was your number one pick of fights that we did not talk about yet?
I want to say Eddie Wineland because he had a cool knockout, but I got to say Aljamain Sterling. I really expected him to try to score the takedown against Pedro Munoz to put a lot of top pressure on him, and he didn't do that. He came out and showed a different type of striking ability that we've seen in his previous fights, and he really impressed me. I think he should get the next title shot at Cejudo. Cejudo wants to defend the 135 because he looked very impressive to me.
Simon, thoughts on that?
Yeah, fair enough. The fight that I personally really liked was an interview. I did an interview with Ricardo Lama a couple of weeks ago before he fought. And so I was rooting for him, and I was really expecting a big show because he talked and he seemed really confident during the interview against Calvin Kattar, was it?
Yeah, Calvin Kattar. What was he saying during the interview that stood out to you before the fight?
One of the big things I like to do when I interview people is I like to ask them, how do you want to be remembered when you eventually retire, and what's your kind of end goal? And obviously his end goal was to win the title, but then he was telling me about how he wants to go down as one of the best in the featherweight division because he's got a record in the heavyweight division, whether it's the longest win streak or one of the most wins or one of the most fights. I can't remember off the top of my head. If you guys want to go check that out, it's on my Instagram, so you can be more specific in that day. But he's basically a well-established name in the featherweight division. So I was thinking to myself, okay, this guy is well known and he's well established, and this could be the building blocks for him to start going on a run again and start getting up towards that title. He's got the track record for it, and he's got the stats to back up his shit. So hopefully to see that. But I was well impressed with Calvin Kattar and the stoppage that he got. Guys, I mean, did you guys see this fight? Jesus Christ, the jab and then the fake and then over the hook. Absolutely amazing knockout, sensational. I can't remember, did he get a performance of the night bonus?
I'm not sure who got performance of the night bonus. Do you know, Mike?
Yeah, it was Cejudo and Shevchenko got the performance bonuses, and then Tony Cerrone got the fight of the night bonus.
Okay.
See, up to that point, I had Kattar getting the performance of the night bonuses, which was a fucking shame. But at the end of the day, that fight was so good that Lamas had to be transported to hospital after that fight because of the damage that Kattar did in that fight. So it was a shame for me because you interview a guy and he loses because you got to back him, right? Eddie, you know this. If especially when you interview, you kind of got to back him.
You get a little biased, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So and he's the first guy that I ever interviewed as well. So obviously I'm going to be a little biased to him. So I'm a little bit biased to Curtis Blades now. So shit like that happens and.
Hey, what did Curtis say to you? I saw you posted something about the interview. I've interviewed Curtis before, about 4 years ago now. Great guy, really great guy. What did he say to you in that interview that stood out to you?
Well, I put the video up on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram, and it was one of the big things that I liked about it was I asked him about the whole Brock Lesnar situation.
Yeah.
And he talked like a fan. He was like, don't be coming over here and holding up the fucking division. And I was thinking to myself, fair enough, man. He's coming in and he's trying to, he gets it that they're trying to do a money fight between Daniel Cormier and Brock Lesnar. But at the end of the day, don't be holding up that division. I asked him about the Ngannou losses as well, and he was like, he thought that if he didn't get caught with that shot early on, that his game plan would have worked, and that he will go into the next fight if they eventually meet down the line again with the same kind of game plan. But obviously he had to switch it up slightly just because of the losses, and how he wants to be remembered as a wrestler and one of the most dominant wrestlers in the UFC. And yeah, man, I was even saying to him that I can see you and Ngannou fighting for a title in the next couple of years. That you two are the top of the division. You two seem to be the future of the division once Cormier retires in the next couple of years. and like the old guard kind of gets filtered out, and I could see them guys on top of the guard, so I can definitely see that fight happening again. So it was just really interesting to speak to him about that. And then obviously I asked him about his upcoming fight at UFC 242, but this was before it got confirmed, and he couldn't speak on that, but he kind of knew that it was going to happen, but just by the way he was talking.
Yeah.
So he gave like a vague answer. He was like, I can't really speak on contract negotiations, but it was like, okay, we can kind of tell that something's occurring, and yeah. So yeah, really good interview. If you guys want to go check that out, it's on my Instagram and on my YouTube as well. So that was a really fun interview, by the way.
So the bonus of the night went to Valentina, Henry Cejudo, and who was the third one?
The fight of the night was Cowboy Ferguson.
Let me mention this. Jojo Calderwood, unfortunately, not getting the win. Loses via unanimous decision against Caitlin Chukagian. Very tough fight. Started the card out. Eddie Wineland gets the finish. We had a decent amount of finishes as well. Calvin Couture. Karolina Kowalkiewicz gets the L to Alexa Grasso. What did you guys think about that? Poor Karolina. I mean, she was another one coming into the UFC. Big name. Beating girls. Now she's fallen to 12-5. Alexa Grasso, man, she's killing it, man. I'm like falling in love with Alexa Grasso. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, man, she needs to get back on the horse.
Yeah, 3 straight losses, man. She's got to turn it around. Alexa Grasso's on the way up. I seen that coming into it. She had lost to Tatiana Suarez, but she had a couple of good wins in the UFC. Ronda Marcos, Heather Jo Clark. She was in Invicta before that. She did pretty well. She was like, her first loss was Felice Herrig in 2017. She started Pro MMA in 2012. So she went 5 years without losing, then lost to Herrig and lost to Schwartz, Tatiana Suarez, and that was it. So I was high on Grasso coming into the fight.
Last thing I want to mention here, guys, before we end the show with a rating. Tatiana Suarez, who thinks that if she gets past the next opponent, there's no way she doesn't get a title shot?
Yeah, I think it should probably come next, honestly.
So did anybody look at the weight division there? Who's in the weight division?
Hers is she's in the Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas division.
Do you know who's in the top 5 of that division?
Yeah, she's second. She's number 2.
Rose Namajunas, Suarez, Ansaroff, Jędrzejczyk, and Gadela, Claudia.
Yeah.
Ooh, what about Tatiana versus Rose Namajunas? That would be interesting. It
depends on what's going on with Rose, because her mental state at the moment, I don't know what's going on with her, because I remember in the post-fight interview of her fight at UFC 237, she was talking about how she was so happy that she lost the belt because of the pressure on her shoulders.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe her mental state isn't where we think it is. That she's feeling the pressure of being in the limelight and being in the pressure, and this kind of this nickname of Thug Rose is kind of getting to her, and there's a lot of eyes on her. She's very marketable, and the pressure of the media and stuff like that might be getting to her a little bit. So she might be taking some time away from the sport at the moment. So we might not see that for a while, and she might just want to kind of relax, do some gardening and all that shit for a bit, and then hopefully see her back at the end of the year. Because I really like Rose Namajunas. I really want her to be a big star and be a champion, but shit happens, man. I mean, she made one mistake in that Andrade fight, like holding on to the Kimura, and she just gets dropped on her head. And now Andrade is the champ. And I mean, watching that fight, Rose had the upper hand for a while, and it was just in those takedowns, she didn't let go, and she overcommitted some, and then she paid the price for it. So I'd like to see her again fight for the title, maybe after one more fight, but whether or not she wants that, it's 2 different things, though. So I just wish her all the best, man.
Did you guys see the post-fight presser?
Say again?
Did you guys watch the post-fight presser?
Hell yeah, I did the fucking live updates on the website.
I've seen it.
Did you hear Dana say anything about Tatiana's next move? Was there anything brought up about that?
Let me pull that up for you right now.
Because I'm seeing on Instagram right now, there's a lot of people that want to see her get the title shot next against Jessica Andrade. I would die to see that. Is Tatiana ready for that? I'd say yeah, but I would also like to see her fight one more person before that. But then again, I said the same thing about Jessica Andrade for a while, and look at her do the damn thing. So shit.
Just to check you up on that, not in the post-fight press conference, there was just mostly a lot of talks about Tony and Cejudo, because Cejudo was talking a lot of shit, and everyone was just talking about, whether Cejudo was correct in that. He was saying he's one of the best, he's the greatest of all time, and all this shit. And Dana essentially said, "You've got John Jones out there. Khabib has never lost. Look at guys they run through." So he's essentially saying that, okay, you beat Demetrius Johnson, you beat TJ Dillashaw, but don't say you're the greatest of all time when you've got people like George St. Pierre in the mix. You've got people like Khabib, John Jones, and they've beaten, and their track record is probably even more reputable than Cejudo's. So you can't really say that right now. A lot of people are concerned about Cowboy. Dana also confirms that apparently the flyweight division is still sticking around, despite more rumors that it is going to be cut. And there was a whole back and forth thing as well with Dana White and Cyborg, where Dana White criticised Cyborg for saying that Cyborg doesn't want to fight Nunes, despite Nunes wanting to fight Cyborg at 145. And then apparently live during the press conference, Cyborg tweets Dana White saying that that's not the reality of it, and that she does want to fight her. And so Dana White says if she wants to fight Nunes again at 145, the fight's there for her. So that could be a potential matchmaking there, that we might be seeing Cyborg Nunes too. Being in the next couple of months. So
that would
be an
be
interesting
sick.
fight to see, most definitely.
I would love to see that fight go back.
Fuck yeah, man. Shit.
But
that
really
was
quick,
such an interesting fight.
Last note on this. You guys know what we like to do before we end the show. 1 out of 10. Basis with 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What did you think it was going to be on paper, and then did it live up to expectations? For me, I thought this was a 9 out of 10. All the fights on here, even if you were a casual fan, you at least knew 90% of the people that were on this card, if not 75%. For diehards, of course, we know every single fighter on this card. But I was a little worried because we've seen cards like this with all the big names on it, all the up-and-comers, all the legends, and it doesn't live up to hype. This card lived up to everything I wanted it to be. But the one thing I did not like about this card is that some of the fights I wish could have been switched up to the main card. Like, I wish Jojo Calderwood was a little bit higher up. But with that being said, man, that is nothing to complain about. This had to be a perfect card. I give it a 9 out of 10 for a pay-per-view. Definitely worth the $70, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I'd have gone probably like an 8.5 kind of thing, because one, Tuivasa and Ivanov, the main opening fight is usually a big slobber knockout. The UFC is quite known that they like to kick off a card, and they like to have a big fight to kick off the card to get the fans hyped up. That fight, not so much. It didn't really live up to any kind of huge expectations for that, and the guys' gas tanks really, really took a hit, and so the third round was a little bit sloppy, so it didn't really kick off to a great start. But then you had the Yan fight, then you had the Ferguson fight, which the ending was like a little bit bittersweet, but upon reflection, that's a good thing. But at the time, everyone was kind of taken away just by the finish rather than the fight on the whole. Shevchenko fight was awesome. Cejudo fight was awesome. So I'd have gone for like an 8.5. There were just those tiny little bits in there that kind of just left a bit of a bittersweet taste in the mouth at the end of the car, at the end of the end of the fights. But all around, I'd recommend people go out their way to watch these fights, and definitely worth 70 quid.
Mike?
Yeah, I'd have to say, on paper, I had this being like a low 9s, mid 9s. I thought it was going to be one of the best cards of the year. He had some good decisions, but there was definitely a lot. I think it was, the Aljo, that was a good fight. Tatiana Suarez was a good fight, but then you had fights like the Darren Stewart fight that was kind of like a snooze fest. Then you had the Angela Hill fight that didn't go to be as exciting as it was supposed to be.
Poor Angela, man. Poor Angela.
Yeah. Ivanov and Tuivasa both gassed out. There was just a lot of things that I thought were going to be great, like Tony Ferguson versus Cowboy type of fight. That didn't really happen, so I'd have to go a little bit lower, maybe a 8.1, 8.2, somewhere in there.
You brought up some really good points. I think that you nailed it right there with a quick breakdown in a nutshell. When it came to anything that was wrong with the card, you definitely nailed it right there. Last thing here, guys. $440,000 went to Henry Cejudo, almost $500,000. Nice seeing these guys get paid. Bowen Valentina, $300,000. Tony Ferguson, $235,000. Cowboy, $245,000. It's nice to see him get paid. I would still like to see him get a little bit more. You don't see that in boxing. Still, it's a newer sport, and as years go on, I would like to see Reebok get out of there. At least give these guys 2 sponsors put on their shorts. Let them make an extra $100,000. I mean, come on. It's just ridiculous. So hopefully we'll be able to get Reebok out of there, or at least make a deal where they can get 1 or 2 sponsors. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Simon, you want to give everybody your social media, and also Mike right after him?
You got it.
Yeah, sure. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook and Twitter is US_news_official. I finally got a Twitter. Thanks
Oh,
for
you
everyone
do?
telling me to finally get a Twitter. People kept telling me, but I kept getting DMs saying, "What's your Twitter?" So I was like, "Oh, fuck's sake, man! I better make a Twitter."
Told
so
you.
it's UFC_news_official on Twitter. I'm on there, and I usually just talk shit and have a bit of fun on there. So it's not as serious as my Instagram, but it is pretty good anyway. My Instagram is UFC_news_official. On YouTube, it's MMA Online. I've got interviews coming out this week with Trizano.
The Lone Wolf.
Yeah, and I've also got an interview with Don Mage, the South African UFC fighter, who's apparently going to be the next big thing. And that's a very, very interesting interview. And I've also got an interview with a kids coach who's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coming out as well, where we talk about UFC being MMA being an Olympic sport, the importance of mixed martial arts for children, and how mixed martial arts can be beneficial to everyone's overall health. And just more shit coming out soon. And I've got Discord and everything like that. And PureEvilMMA.com, by the way.
Of course, always MMA news and updates. Mike Lynch, where can people find you?
That's my name on Facebook. I got a personal Facebook, but the Twitter is the BBQ Pit _live. The Instagram is the BBQ Pit _MMA, and then the YouTube is the Barbecue Pit.live. On YouTube, all we do is really prediction shows and live companions, pretty much there.
And guys, we got some really exciting cards coming up as well. UFC 239, another stacked pay-per-view card. I cannot wait for that. There are so many big fights that are going to be on there. So look forward to what we got going here at Pure Evil MMA. You check out all the latest MMA news, interviews, updates, PureEvilMMA.com. I'm Evil Eddie, owner of PureEvilMMA.com. And remember, white knuckles to the end, and without evil, there's no purity. Behave yourselves.